Hello, Realm Walkers, and welcome to this episode from the Dragon Harvest universe. I am Kirk Comet, your Realmwright, and this is Forging the Realm. Today, we're going to be discussing creating culture and building worlds from the character's perspective. And I'm honestly so excited for this episode, so let's just get right into it. There are a lot of different ways to tell a story, and I'm going to use two categories here because it's helpful to contrast. And the two categories, as I'm going to describe, I'm going to title one the explorer and the other the architect. The architect likes to start from the top and go all the way down, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But the explorer likes to just pick a moment in time in a character and follow them. And it's interesting because obviously the architect has the opportunity to create some hard magic systems, some consistent lore right off the bat that they can consult. They never have to really worry, about whether or not they're going to contradict themselves, or at least they have to worry less. I won't say they never have to worry, but they can consult their list and they say, these are the truths of the universe, and I have written them out. And the more extensive they are, the more they have, assuming they can organize it and read through it, to pull back on and look through and be able to say, this is the facts. I am someone who does write a hard magic system, but I do it through exploration. And I'll explain that a little bit. Demon and Witch. When I first started this, I wrote a single chapter, was not planning on writing Demon and Witch even. I was really just using fantasy as a way to journal about life, as a way to have some fun and imagine some things and go on a little adventure. And so you just start writing and you let the story take you where it does. And I really liked the chapter that I wrote, and so I said, let's write another one. And I wrote another one, and I wrote a third one. I said, maybe this could be a book, but at least where we're at is not a starting point. How did this person get into this situation? And so I went back and I wrote 5 chapters, consulting with those chapters kind of thing, and just kind of kept filling out the story as I went. And it did take a series of rewrites as you go, because you're like, wait, this has profound implications for these things. And I would create that list that we were talking about as we go. I do create that list of rules as we go, but as we go. So I explore, just like the character discovers the rule, I discover, I'm like, whoa, okay, is that what that means? Just write it out. I know it sounds really goofy, but if you get it, you get it. It's a fun way, and it's also a fun way to check and see, like, is this going to be compelling to the reader when they discover it? And so that's actually a lot of how Demon and Witch came to be. Of course, I started thinking through as a bigger project, like, what are the major strokes that I want to hit? I knew where I wanted to go with the story broadly, but at times the rules that I developed challenged that, improved that, or at times I'd say, then we can't go that way. And so kind of mixed with it a little bit, but really just got to explore the world. And so we'll talk more about how that works, why that's a sweet thing, and I think how that can actually make it richer in some cases. But first, let's talk with the kind of God's eye view, the ability to look down at your world and see everything before you start. I did have a creative writing teacher in high school, and this is what he wanted us to do. We had character sheets where we filled out everything there was to know about our character. Not really, you can't do that. Everything there was to know about the country, again, not really. Go on, the list. Okay. It can be really helpful. I'm not saying there's no value in it, and I'm not saying that you should have no idea what you want to tell. A story that is directionless is really tough. Can be really hard to read, can be even harder to write. But I think this approach can lead to actually a feeling of flatness if we're not careful with it. Because, hear me out, you can either A, forget to explain details that enrich things in a way that enriches them. There's no discovery for you, and so there's no discovery for the reader. Or B, you can just forget to say things, period. You've understood your system so complexly that you're not even like walking someone through it anymore. You're a high-level mathematician and your brand new reader just started kindergarten and you're expecting them to get it and they don't, or you just start text dumping them and they can't. and so they don't follow along, as opposed to like discovering things and seeing how they play out. I think there's some sweet beauty in that. Um, some things to watch for, regardless of which type you are. And it's okay to be either kind of writer or to be something else that's not listed in here or somewhere on that spectrum. But you can definitely get into, like I said, those info dumps where you're overloading us with data because you have data to give and it's hard work that you've put in and you want others to see it and you're anxious for it, especially if it's your first book. I feel you on that. Slay your darlings is a common phrase. Just chop off the heads of those bad boys. It's not that you don't love them. It's not that they don't have a place in the future. It's that they have to contribute to the story in a meaningful, enticing way at that moment, or they've got to go. I also think it can create a disjunction between the character that we're reading about and the world you want us to know. So if you're stopping to give us 4 pages on why the blueberry cart is there, but the character themselves does not care about the blueberry cart, it just disconnects in a way that takes us away from the story, takes us away from the character, leaves us feeling uncertain and unsure. Again, some people can do it really well, but these are the pitfalls to watch out for. Now I'm going to pitch the way I do things, understanding that they work for me, and they might work for you too. They work for a lot of people. So why start with the character's perspective? We get to learn things about the world as you learn about the character. You get to see their biases, what excites them, what scares them, what they think about things. It really just makes not just the world, but the character richer. And as a writer, it's fun to kind of like go through that and see what the implications are, as long as you're able to say to yourself after almost every action, so the character does this and not and then, but you say, but. And so then you have to play with, well, what does that mean for them? Now you get to learn about the rituals of the world in a way that really does feel like discovery, because it is discovery, and in a way that allows your reader to sense that discovery, as long as you can put it together in the end, edit yourself, make sure that it works. When you finish that chapter, say, cool, now how does it all actually fit? And remember, writing is rewriting a lot of the time, regardless of which kind of writing you do. Be willing to do the edit. It's worth it. Okay. Here are some things that I think would be worth seeing as you're trying to develop that world if you use the character perspective, knowing that I'm not reading your story specifically, but it's worth picking up on some of these things. It's worth to say, like, what does our character see in terms of beliefs, in terms of superstitions, in terms of myths and lore that circulate around the story? So, for example, in Mistborn, we hear about the hero of ages. In Demon in Witch, there's talks of conspiracies and powers and whether or not people are safe in certain environments. And these are all important to hear from the character's perspective, because they develop the character's sense of where they're at and what they need to do. But also, as a reader, it's enticing. Are they safe? Is there a conspiracy going on? What's happening? Help me understand these superpowers. What is that about? What does the magic system mean? Languages and expressions, I think, are also really cool to see. Seeing Snape from Harry's perspective is interesting. If we had started with seeing Snape from Dumbledore's perspective, the Harry Potter series would have played out differently to us. It would have been clear, right? There's not so much like, did Snape steal the Sorcerer's Stone or not? Or when Snape kills Dumbledore, like, from Harry's perspective, you're like, what? But from Dumbledore's perspective, you're like, yeah, this needed to happen. It's sad, but here we are. In terms of broader things, food is relevant. Even fashion, especially in fantasy worlds. We have characters from Demon and Witch who jump from Earth into a fantasy world and out and back again. Kind of Narnia, like the in-between worlds feeling. And the clothes situation is kind of funny and jarring. And superhero suits, how does that exist inside a fantasy world? What does that mean to look like a witch or like a ripoff of Daredevil? And yes, that's intentional. If you haven't read the book, he's a huge fan of Daredevil. I'm a huge fan of Daredevil. So he made a character based off of Daredevil's look. Education, history, the ability to study. What does that mean in this culture? The ability to study certain things like magic or blacksmithing and the implications of that, and then also financial class, social class. Who has the power, and what does that mean in relationship to our character? These are all things that you can help use to develop your world while contributing to your plot if told from the character's perspective. Again, it saves you a huge info dump. Give your character a revelation that matters, and then you can use that as an opportunity to share your world. It's a really sweet thing, as opposed to just, before you can read this chapter and the character can walk down the street, I need to tell you about the city and how it sits inside the country and how the country sits inside the continent. Oh, and also these 10 other artifacts that are here. And no, just like, hey, my character is walking down the street and they see smoke billowing out of, you know, the houses, and the snow on the roofs just continues to pack on, and it's cold, but it's always cold here, and they never seem warm. And no matter what they do or how many cloaks they wear, and everyone's wearing cloaks in this place, nobody ever seems to get warm. And so everyone's always going to buy firewood. And fortunately, the town does have this special kind of firewood that they use, that they get from the trees outside the walls, but it's dangerous to go out there, so it's expensive wood. But I just got paid today. My family is cold and hungry, and it is my job to get the wood, and I can do it. So I'm going to do it. And even in a sentence like that, we've told you that this town lives in a cold environment, that people value the ability to get warm. We've told you a little bit about how they dress. We've told you that the main character, is from a poor family, and that they have to work together to keep each other alive. And we've told you that there might be a dangerous threat outside, somehow relating to this very special wood. And we did that without dumping information on you, but pushing a story forward. And so I think there's a lot of value and beauty in that. I like to change perspectives. Phoebe gets first-person perspective. Scott gets first-person perspective. A couple other people get first-person perspective. That gets to be a tongue twister, say that enough times. Inside Demon and Witch. The second book, which I'm working on now, Necromancer, will have multiple first-person perspectives. It's sometimes fun to have a narrator who doesn't know everything, who gets the details wrong, who tells you false things about the world or the magic, and doing that in the right way can be really fun, as long as you're not just making your reader feel like they have learned helplessness. It's like, come on. Doing that meaningfully can be really sweet and fun. But I also think when you learn about who the reliable characters are, it can expand that world in just such a sweet way. If you want to practice this, I would encourage you to pick a character, like I said, and have them walk down the road and let them see what they see. Journal in your character's voice and try and talk about favorite memories or a concerning thing that they saw. Those kinds of activities I think are great for developing this. Honestly, just start writing. Give yourself that opportunity to grow. Do it. Write until you feel like it just comes naturally. And if it helps you and it helps me, I'll make notes of things as I go, whether that's on my docs or in journals beside me. I'll say, okay, these are the rules that I set out, maybe the page number as to where I developed it so I can go back and look at it. Let me hear from you. Do you like architecting a story, or do you like exploring it more? Or are you more like me, where you have a preference, but you have to utilize both to really get to where you want to go? I would love to hear that from you. I'd love to hear from you what you want to hear from in this podcast. And I would love to encourage you to like and subscribe if you haven't, because this podcast is going to keep rolling out. It's an easy way for you to stay connected with the fellow realm walkers who walk these fantasy realms with us. And so whether you're interested in Dragon Harvest universe stories, you're interested in fantasy writing, or just fantasy in general, we're so glad you're here. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you in the next one.